Hi, it's Paul Banis. On today's episode of Great Dad Talks, we explore the unexpected connections between executive leadership and everyday parenting with special guest Steve Barton. You ever wonder why dads and moms get triggered in the heat of the moment, or how boundaries and self-awareness can completely change your family dynamic? Stick around as Steve Barton shares practical tools like the game of 10, tips on handling guilt and shame, and the powerful impact of responding versus reacting as a parent. If you're looking to create more calm, connection, and inner peace in your home, won't want to miss this conversation. And it helps me a lot if you hit like and subscribe. And I really appreciate that. And glad to have you here for another episode of Great Dad Talks. Hey, it's Paul Banis of GreatDad.com, and I'm here doing my weekly series talking about modern fatherhood. And I'm excited today to talk maybe a little bit different angle of fatherhood than we have, though we do have a lot of coaches on, but talking about the lessons from business and high-powered executive coaching and how that translates into your everyday work as a dad, whether whether you are that high-powered executive or a little bit low key. There are a lot of lessons to be learned. So I have Steve Barton with me today. Welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you, Paul, for having me on, and thank you for the introduction. And yeah, parenting is leadership.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
that's what
like
it
that.
is.
Yeah, I like that framing. So you had experience like you were thrown into leadership when your father died and you had to take over the business and you learned.
Well, he didn't die, he had a stroke.
Yes, oh, well,
I don't know what would have been worse.
oh yeah,
I think the
yeah, good
stroke
point.
was worse. Working with somebody, anyone who's been with someone who's really powerful to begin with, and then they have a stroke, add some frustration to it.
Yeah,
So I was 22 when I was actually leaving for Europe to study floral design, and I had a one-way ticket. And 3 days before uh, that I was leaving, and I get a phone call. My parents are at the FDD convention in Kansas City, Missouri, and says, "You can't go. Your father's had a full-blown stroke." So,
wow,
yep.
wow.
So that was the beginning of my flow 30th year flow career. So yeah, so I learned business by immersion.
Yeah, yeah, just
Like I learned parenting by immersion.
right, thrown right into it, and then you use that experience. I guess I'm interested in, let's first of all, let's talk about why that led to the interest in coaching. You have a different background in coaching than I do in Gestalt method coaching. How that transformation came about.
Well, I retired at 52, I believe, and then retired. So I actually got to retire for a year and a half. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so I got my financial advisor's licenses then, which I loved learning stuff, but last thing I want to do is be God love you all financial advisors, but I can't be responsible for other people's money. No. Um, and so then I stopped that. And then I was doing coaching to begin with without having a formal education. So I did go to the Gestalt International Study Center in 2015. So I had a framework so I could, at least have a foundation that I got some proof of evidence that I was trained.
right.
And then, but in the meantime, during that time, I was also creating my own process, which is called the Game of 10. And we can go over that today if you want to. And I wrote a parenting book, and that basically the parenting book that I wrote with my son is about the Game of 10 and disguised as a parenting book. And that's another story if you want to get into that, how that happened. So, I have one child. I'm an expert parent to my child, and I will never pontificate that I'm an expert parent, or an expert
Yeah.
on parenting because every person's different.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that. I totally agree, and I've tried to make that part of what we communicate all the time is that I'm not trying to judge anybody's personal experience. We all have, different amounts of money and comfort we bring to this game, which puts on a whole bunch of different stressors. We have our own background, we have our own personal traumas, we have our own kids' psychological and mental makeup, and every day is a new new struggle, a new communication, new chapter in the history.
Yeah.
And I think I found that fascinating in reading your background is in, I guess, that appreciation of that fact and the fact that we're going through this moment by moment. And I know personally, I got two kids and best of intentions, lots of lists, lots of to-dos, lots of things that I know I should be doing. I forget. And one of the things I want to talk about is why dads do get triggered. I guess it's not just dads, moms do the same thing, but
Yeah.
dads get triggered in the moment and all that stuff they thought they knew, whether they're psychologists or lay people, they forget. They react.
We have internal and generational and personal traumas that we start with at birth. And those traumas come out when we don't get the desired outcome that we're looking for. Typically, it's love or respect. Okay, same word, different text context. And when we're not getting that respect from our child or our partners or people who are support groups, friends, family, relatives, and all of that, when we don't get that, typically that is the biggest trigger when we are not being respected.
Mm. And that comes in the form of like, I'm not going to
Many,
do that, or I'm not going to,
the whole spectrum
yeah.
of
Yeah.
that.
So what if it's that obvious that's the thing,
Mhm.
um, is there any insight that we can gain about being aware of that or
Well, when you're triggered, you become mad. When you're mad, you're insane. So there is no logic in insanity,
right.
temporary insanity when a situation happens. There's only preparations for it, meaning get rid of the triggers. Okay. So you
Okay, get
have
rid
you
now.
have a
Yeah.
yeah, get rid of the triggers.
Yeah, get rid of
What
the
are my
child.
triggers? Yeah,
Or the
easier
pet.
said than done, but it's really about letting go, really identifying what the triggers are, identifying when it happens. You know, you can't do it when you're in that insane state. Okay, let's call it what it is. When you're mad, I'm mad. I'm in an insane state.
Mhm.
Let me be, let me process, let me get through this so I can figure out how it happened, what situation. Usually you're tired, you were had a situation outside of the situation that same day or multiple of these, and
Yeah,
this was the last straw, and someone said, Daddy, you promised to take me to the store.
right,
It's the last straw usually that triggers you when you've given so much and not to yourself, and you have nothing to give, and
right,
it's a defense mechanism. And so that's what it is. How
right,
do you deal with it? It's by self-care, knowing your boundaries, knowing that you're vulnerable, preparing people when you're coming home that, hey, it's been a rough day.
yeah, yeah.
I need some time to go to my den. Even men, especially, need to have that time after work. They need the time to themselves and not come home with a honey-do list or you did this wrong list. You don't need that. So,
I think that's really very practical advice is setting that boundary, especially if you work away from home and you come
Mhm.
back and you need that transition time that isn't just a continuation of the stress you were feeling just, a few minutes before, whether that
Yeah.
is going into your den, like you say, and just sitting down and relaxing. I know a
Mhm.
lot of people have a glass of wine or something when they come
Yep.
home with that
Yep.
same ideas that it's a transition. Not that they need the alcohol, but they need a transition point to come back into the
Right.
house and then
Right.
readjust. So if in the moment, I'm trying to figure out whether you're saying that it's inevitable that you are triggered, or if you can recognize that trigger. Maybe that's a lost cause to recognize the trigger and not be triggered, or is it recognizing the trigger and reacting differently to the trigger?
Well, I do a process in my coaching that when you it's really about letting go of those the game of 10 is all about we're appointed 10. And through life's situations, people, places, and things, situations that we go through that are not giving us who we are. So we are loving beings having a physical experience. So when we get disrespected or disloved or disappointed, then those are going to be triggers at some level, 1 through 9. I call that the game often played. And then so our true health is staying in that game of 10 at least 80% of the time. Okay. And no, and we're human, so it's 20% maybe that you're going to be vulnerable, get overtired, feel sick or unhealthy. And there's times when you're going to have to know when you're vulnerable to be triggered and when people are demanding from you when you don't have the capacity to give. So
Hmm.
it's really setting clear boundaries. And a lot of people have trouble with that. So I've been a student of A Course in Miracles. Marianne Williamson was one of my
Okay.
coaches too. She's great. And I know she's in the San Francisco, started there in the early 80s. And so she said about boundaries, sometimes love says yes, sometimes love says no, sometimes love says stay, and sometimes love says go. And to say no and go lovingly, not to get the hell out of here, saying, hey, I need some time right now. Can you give me that? If they say no, it said, I'm not, I'm not asking, I'm telling, you got to, for your own safety, for your own, that I don't want to get involved. I have no capacity to give. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say stuff I don't want to say.
Yeah.
That's frankly, essentially just that, really just being aware, self-aware of how you feel at that time.
Yeah. That's important advice because I think a lot of people, I don't know if this is a masculine trait or a feminine trait, but is the desire to be people pleasing and to acquiesce and say, I understand you need this right now, and I'm going to do it, and then the resentment and then the anger kind of are a natural following of that, giving in and not setting the clear boundary and respecting it.
Giving is a masculine trait, receiving is a feminine trait. So we have both masculine and feminine
Yeah.
energy within us, and there's a time and a place to express that.
Yeah. Yeah.
With your
Well,
kids, you're nurturing. Young kids, you're nurturing. As an adult child, my son's 24. I will give advice, and I don't expect him to take it. I don't. And he'll tell me what he's going to do, and I said, nothing. I'd give you advice doing, but let me know how that works out for you. Right? That's how he's going to learn.
So for the folks who don't have your website open and looking at the game of 10,
Mhm.
I better want to put you on the spot and try to condense all this learning and your whole coaching problem
I'm,
down to 10
I'm,
points.
I give, and if people want to give me back, great. If they don't, great. So I'm here to give whatever I have to share with people that will help them.
But
Um,
is it best to give a few elements of the game of 10
sure.
or to try to
Yeah.
run through the game of 10? Or
Well,
what is the most effective way that you use to explain this process and the power of it?
the power is it's based on 6 phrases. And then when you say these 6 phrases, it quiets the mind.
Okay.
So people who have trouble sleeping, have overthinking, Eckhart Tolle says the biggest addiction we have in this world is overthinking. Yeah. So it's a thing because overthinking causes anxiety and depression. It takes you out of the present moment.
Right.
So these 6 phrases, and I'd love to do it with you if you want to.
Sure.
All
Yep.
right, so I'll explain what 10 is. 10 is our highest level of awareness. Awareness is lack of thought. It's when you clear your mind, like in a meditative state, and are just present in the present moment.
Yeah.
10 is our connection to divine source. Okay. So and we are an expression of that. So it's special, not special. So we're all gods in our own, and goddesses, and that special, not special. And that's key because you're not an 11 and you can't be a 9. Okay. You can't be less than, you can't be more than, you just have to be.
Right.
So
Okay.
repeat after me. I am 10.
I'm 10. Yep.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm always right with the awareness that I have.
I'm always right with the awareness that I have.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I do enough.
I do enough.
I have enough.
I have enough.
It quiets the mind. It
Yeah.
answers all of the reticular activating systems. Questions, are you okay, Paul? Are we okay? Is everything set? Have we done this? Have you done that? Have you done that? It answers all its questions, so it just stops talking.
Mm.
So, when I coach people with this, I'll say, you're probably going to have no thought for a nanosecond. Okay?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. And then the
Momentary.
more you
Sorry.
practice it, I have ADHD, and I never have been able to sit down cross-legged and and sit there. I would just be racing, can't checking my. No, this works for me. So I think I'm pretty sure I created it for me and people like me who can't sit down and meditate the traditional way. My
Mhm.
mind is can be overactive. Now my mind is pretty clear most of the time. And when it's not, I say those phrases so I can move on to the next thing. Because when you have no thought, then you have the ability to download ideas and then you turn them into thoughts.
So do you practice this as a mantra, for lack of a better word,
Yeah,
that helps you
it's a
calm down?
mantra, it's a prayer, it's a meditation, it's all those things. The first one declares who we are, the second two take away any guilt or shame.
Yeah.
I did the best I was able to with the awareness I had. They
Right.
did the best they were able to with the awareness they had. Can we gain more awareness? Yes, to a situation and thing. The next three phrases put you in present moment awareness of I am, I do, and I have. And what a lot of people have you ever read the book The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle?
I've I've seen. I don't know. I've
All right.
no,
Well,
never
but
read
it
both.
it talks the main message in this, I'll give the cliff notes, is we are there's only been the present moment. There was no
Yeah.
past, it was always the
Right.
present. There's no future, it will be the present.
Yeah.
So
Fascinating stuff.
yeah, and so what he doesn't talk about in that book, he talks about time and then space, this time space, and when you collapse them, that is when everything happens. You're in the present moment. And what he doesn't talk about is the universal quantity or the universal space or the universal portion. Same thing. That is enough. And that puts you in those three phrases I am enough, I do enough, and I have enough put you in a state of grace and gratitude for what is. Because it's all about what it is right now. So now is always enough.
So in different, different religious traditions, I mean,
Mhm.
the people use the rosary beads for that same purpose.
Mhm.
I myself, I run through the list of the 50 American states in alphabetical order,
There
and it
you
completely clears my mind. But
go.
I'm curious now as to thinking about what the value of the words that go behind that. I mean, that, that that's just what I do. I mean, there's
I love
nothing
it.
magic. I'm not certainly not going to sell a book around it. But I'm curious as to whether you think you obviously do that those words, saying those words, and that they're the answers to specific questions are the magic in those six senses.
Yes, because the game often played is based on four elements. Okay, so I have the game of 10, which is infinite grace, gratitude, abundance, happy, healthy, wealthy, healed, and whole. Everything's great. Okay, not in a Pollyanna way, but just in a factual way. This is it. This is it for today. This is it for now. This is the best. This is as good as it gets. So the game often played is based on fear, 1 through 9, self-doubt, 1 through 9, guilt, I did something bad, you did something bad, they did something bad, 1 through 9, shame, I'm bad, this is bad, it's guilt, it's shame. So they're separate but brothers and sisters in their own way. And so that's where people mostly come from when they're off 10 and they feel that they aren't enough, they don't do enough. So the ego, our mind-made self, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, it's our identity that we created for ourselves, knowingly or unknowingly. And that
Right.
identity has had great experiences and not so great experiences. So the appointments can be disappointment, minorly, or traumas, abuse, severe abuse. And it's a real thing. And we have to be able to let it go. So even by saying those phrases, it opens up a whole can of worms too. So the second part of the game of 10, which I coach, is how to let go. And people in it, and letting go is another word for forgiving.
Mhm.
Same thing, but people think forgiveness is you have to go to church for it. You have to do all these things. I forgive them. Well, the fact is, we can't forgive at the level of our anger towards that person. It just doesn't happen.
Mhm.
We can say it till the cows come home, but you can't, it won't, oh, I forgive them. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So we have to really give it to our higher self. So when I coach, and Marianne Williamson taught me this process. I mean, there's many ways of forgiveness. I tell your audience, use whatever works. And if it hasn't been working, try this. Okay. So, she says, we have temples right here above our ears. She said, create a temple in your mind. And in that temple, create an altar. So people think, operative word is think, they have to forgive the person, place, or situation that happened in the past or in the present. We actually have to forgive the thought that we created and the story that we made up. And then we attach the feelings and emotions to those. And it becomes this whole thing that has its own identity within ourselves, which is causing havoc. And those are the triggers. Those are the triggers. Those do cause internal and external stresses on our body from our mind.
Hmm.
And it disconnects us, our mind from our body. Yeah.
So bringing it back to the kids, I get how I imagine this is the utmost importance of the relationship with your kids and your role as a leader within the household. We could talk about a whole bunch of different ways that you are the
So,
leader in the household, but I'm guessing that you think this is a this is the linchpin of that role is your emotional regulation and the co-regulation then with your children.
yeah. I mean, if I treated my son like my father treated me, he'd be in therapy right now.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So, yeah. And so hopefully I broke some traumatic generational patterns in my life and that other people that my father and mother didn't. And I think any way that you can do it because healing your triggers, your inner child wounds. Basically, we're all children. I have in the book that the father, son, the album. Um, uh, it's tools for helping you and your child develop a path to happiness. And so when people say to me, "Well, I don't have any children, why don't I read your book?" So I'd say, "So do you have an inner child?" "Oh yeah." I said, "Read it to that." Okay. So
Yeah,
we're actually always healing our own, we're always parenting our own inner child. So
yeah,
yeah, it's the buck always stops with us, no matter what
right.
situation it is. We're
Yeah,
always leading ourselves. We're always parenting ourselves. We're always healing ourselves. And when we heal ourselves, we present to the outside world as healed, and we become healing just by nature, just by our presence.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've said that we can't avoid the triggers and we can't avoid being triggered and we have to learn to react to that trigger. How does that process
I'm going to stop you. I
yeah,
didn't say react. We want to respond to those
respond?
triggers. Okay. Acting is defensive. Responding is
Okay.
more inquisitive. Why did you say that to me? I'm curious. Why did, says this to you disrespectfully. I'm curious what made you think that it was okay to say that to me
So
versus reacting. Okay. Someone calls you something that you just like, I'm curious. What made you think it's okay to say that to me?
mhm,
Really puts things in perspective.
okay. So are you seeing this as a process where you you're triggered, you have a response to the trigger, and then you go away from that situation and you learn from the trigger, or are you trying to respond in some way in the moment that doesn't create a rupture with your children? I just is the
Well, I think it's parenting's all about respect. It's all about love. Okay. I love you, my son. I love you, my daughter. I love you, my
right,
children. It's all about love. So if you can respond from there, you're healed.
right,
There's no trigger. But if you
right.
react, then there's going to be apologies or not apologies, bitterness, resentment, and it will not add to that relationship.
Yeah,
It will
yeah,
diminish that relationship.
right.
Yeah.
So you are trying to learn how to respond in the moment.
Well, if you don't have a trigger, then you will respond. You've learned the lesson in the past. Nobody can say, very few people can say anything to me that would trigger me. Okay. I might laugh, and that would trigger them. But it takes a lot to trigger me. And when I get triggered, I love it. I go, oh my God, I found, I call it flossing. So, oh yeah, oh, someone flossed me, and there's a chunk in
Yeah.
there. And so yeah, so being triggered, nothing wrong with being triggered, just be aware of what it is. It's a pain that has not been healed. It's a childhood wound typically that has been going on in your life your whole life.
Mhm.
So you don't have to go back to the original one, but you have to just peg them off as they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you, it's like a lesson, a mistake. A mistake is something you learn from or you repeat it, one or the other.
But in the moment, for the
Mhm.
average dad,
Yeah.
what happens or what ideally happens that they can learn from and not ruin the moment and then do better next time?
Well, knowing when you are vulnerable to being overtired, overworked,
Mhm.
really not in a good place, to have enough awareness to say, I really need some time right now. I want to talk to you about this after your child, or to say, I really want to talk to you after, and really set it on the couch and do it,
Yeah.
get off the couch and do it, to have this conversation, because that's going to gain respect and trust as a parent to a child that I understand my dad needs time. He told me that and he followed through with it. When you're in a better place and you can respond versus react, you're going to build trust with your children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of dads get into that trap of I'll play catch with you tomorrow when I'm ready,
Mhm.
or I'll
Yeah.
answer that in, like
Yeah.
midnight,
Yeah.
and it never
Cat, the,
comes.
the cat's in the cradle, huh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm sure a lot of people feel guilty in the moment of even just hearing about that because they know they're guilty of it. I mean, to some extent, we probably all are because
Then,
life gets in
then
the way
stop it. I mean, I say if someone feels guilty about it, stop it.
anyway.
Or it's going to continue feeling guilty.
Right,
So
right,
I feel guilty about nothing. If I feel guilty about it, I won't do it.
right.
Right? And
But some people do keep on repeating that pattern, not out
they're
of,
they're addicted to it. Okay, think of it as an addiction to a behavior. So there's a lot of addiction. I mean, in the game of 10, game often played, there's 9 times 9 times 9 times 9, 6,561 options to be addicted to. Okay. And they're all based on fear, self-doubt, guilt, or shame. So that is the matrix. And our job is to break out of the matrix
Mhm.
into awareness, discernment, wisdom. I mean, we have thoughts, we have feelings, we have emotions, we have a mind, we have a body, we have an identity. These are all tools to use from the level of awareness. So our skills, thoughts, feelings, emotions, mind, body, can be sharpened. They can be developed. But we as a human being, we are awareness, consciousness, and we are 10. So coming from that place of 10 and tenderness, okay, then we can really perform and show up as who we truly are, our
Yeah,
authentic selves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a feeling for what the main, or can you define what the main objective of all this is? I mean,
Mental
controlling
health, mental health.
just in general mental health. I mean, from the whole thing of just having calm in the house or being respected.
Mental health,
Yeah,
peace, inner
peace, mental
peace
health.
is mental health.
Yeah,
If you have inner peace, you're going to create outer peace. If you have inner turmoil, you're going to have outer turmoil.
yeah,
So we attract who we are. And if we are a cluster of traumas and maladaptive behaviors and abuse, generational abuse, we're going to attract that. And we're going to trauma bond with somebody who had that too. And I did a podcast on trauma bonding. And she goes, why do people attract each other with trauma bonds? Because they get us. They know that they would, since they know how hurt I was when it happened, they'd never do that to me. Yeah. And that was a big aha moment for me is w- when we do attract these people, which we do. Um, so you really want to attract, and nothing wrong with attracting by trauma bonding, but no, you're gonna have to do the work together because you both know each other's buttons. Okay.
yeah.
Triggers. You both know each other's triggers so well. And in those levels of tiredness and had enoughness and guilt, fear, self-doubt, guilt, and shame, you will use them. And it just is. traumatic for both parties playing that game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if somebody is listening to this in the car on the way back from work, maybe I'm going to read ahead right away that you'd say the first thing to do is like set boundaries immediately when you get in the door. But is there anything else that they can use as a like as a practice to start on this
Well, I think they can start
voyage today?
practicing those phrases. Listen to the podcast again, write the phrases down. I have clients who years later they say, I keep those 6 phrases over my visor in my car. Every time I get in my car, I read those 6 phrases.
Interesting.
So, and she says, they just says it just works. So, I mean, yeah, it just works. And you have to, it's actually brainwashes yourself
Yeah.
to clean out old thoughts, feelings, and emotions that no longer serve you. They can be from yesterday, they can be from a year ago. Memories come up. Why are they coming up? Well, they're actually coming up for us to let them go. All right. So creating your temple with an altar and just saying, I was a florist, so I take a bouquet of thoughts. I mean, when I first started with clients, I said, you got a dump truck you got to go up there? Imagine renting the biggest dump truck you can find, Eartha, and taking it up to the altar and dump. Oh, you can do that? Yep. So it's really about letting go so you can flow. I just made that up for your audience. Let it go so you can flow. And that is
Okay.
what flow is, the state of awareness where things just come and go. And it's like, yep, someone said that to me today. That was a funny one. I get the finger on the way home from work today. That was a good one.
All right, so kind of wrapping up here, I'm curious because you don't usually talk about fatherhood specifically. You're not a fatherhood coach. You're talking to mostly
Well,
moms.
I'm an expert. I wrote a fatherhood book.
Well, that's true. But in your usual day job with your coaching clients, you're mostly talking about management success and leadership success in the workplace, right?
Right.
I guess I'm curious as to how often these problems this comes up. I mean, in coaching, my coaching training, we always learned like you can be the most business focused coach in the world, but eventually it's all going to come back to the interpersonal relationships you have at home and how you feel about your own childhood and all these
Yeah, well, that would be
most important.
compartmentalized. Someone can be very good at compartmentalizing, but the floodgates are going to break at some
Yeah,
point. Make
yeah,
sense? Yeah. So you want to set up loving boundaries, but not walls
yeah,
or floodgates that you just like holding in all this power control that you have at work and profit. That's what you're focusing on. And you use power control at home.
yeah.
Yeah,
It doesn't work.
it
Doesn't work.
doesn't work. Does not work. No.
But do you find this in the majority or all your clients where eventually by seventh or eighth meeting it
I
filters
get I
in
get
like
them to I get them to 10 and usually 4 sessions. And then when you're at 10, you get everything you ask for? What do you want? I want to have a healthy relationship. Okay. All right. So I go with the whole thing. How is your relationship at home? Because it's going to spew off into the
yeah,
office. So there
right,
is no, in my code, there's no separation. It's
yeah,
a work is a relationship. At a CEO level, your relationship is with your board of directors and your company and the health and well-being of your people who are producing the products that you are the servicing their customers and show me a happy, healthy work environment. I'll show you happy, healthy employees who treat their people on the phone with dignity and respect and have a mental health. Um, really feel great about how well their company supports their health and well-being in a
yeah,
work environment. Same with a family. It's the same. I think people do think of it differently, like they think of love and respect differently. Okay?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think definitely people have an idea of the power you have to have at work being different than the power you have at home. And there's a huge debate in our culture right now about hard power versus soft power.
How about taking power away and using awareness
Right.
as another way of looking at it? Because power and control are egoic. And put it to
Right.
business, power control money, government's power control profit. Okay, power control in the household doesn't work. It doesn't work in other aspects either. It's about awareness. And when you take when you go from uh, the ego likes to take, okay, the spirit likes to give.
Hmm.
And it's awareness will always win. In at the Gestalt International Study Center, the tagline is awareness is the key. But we are conditioned for the power and control over. And usually it's to protect something that doesn't need protecting. That is our self, our spirit, who we are. It doesn't need protecting, it needs awareness to grow. So I think that's easily, yeah, awareness is the key to everything. And you have to do it by unconditioning yourself
Yeah.
because we are conditioned to have conditions on love and respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, is there anything maybe related to this or unrelated to this that you learned during your life as a dad that you would advise younger dads to bring into the picture, um, or be
I
aware
think
of,
just
or to change?
be present with your children. You know, it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Just expect it's not going to work. Expect the unexpected and you'll be never be disappointed. Okay? Yeah, just know that you're doing the best you can and do the best that you can with the awareness you have. I mean, I gave my son a timeout once. And it turns out he was hungry. And he goes, and he's 24
Oh,
years old. Yeah. And I never hit him. I never yelled at him. But he
right.
goes, in the other day, Dad, you remember when you gave me that timeout? I said, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. I remember when it happened. I knew I would never live this down. I was hungry.
That's what he told you finally. You
Yeah.
revealed that
Well,
today.
no, even that day, I'm hungry. I said, why didn't you tell me?
Right. The tantrum
So
would have been a lot more obvious to
I would have
take.
just got, what do you want to eat? And he was so, melted down that he probably couldn't even tell me what he wanted to eat. But I didn't know it. But I finally got it out of him. But he was just acting up like I'd never seen. I said, and I didn't know what to do. When I was alone with him, and I gave him I figured I'll give him a timeout this week, see what happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It
Back in
was
the day when that was
it
the
couldn't
sort
have
of
been the
tradition.
worst. It was the worst thing I could have ever done. I said, "Are you traumatized now from that?" No. I said, "Why'd you bring it up?" I
Well,
said, "There are therapists now that you can go."
well, if it only happened once, he probably doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think he needs
He's
it.
gotten over
But
it.
yeah, so
But that is interesting that our generation, we didn't, you and I both, we learned a lot of this on the job training and came up with our own ways of being more present dads and not giving into that. It sounds like your experience was very similar to mine, in that I because I didn't want to repeat the kind of the things that happened to me. I did not want to be reactive and did not want to be the victim of just what my monkey brain
it
was
would,
telling me to do.
yeah, yeah.
But it's not easy in the moment because quite again, like you say, it's sometimes it's just confounding and confusing, and when you're tired or
Yeah, and I think that people get wrapped up in they're supposed to know. Okay.
yeah, they're
So
supposed to
they're
be. Yeah.
supposed to know. Well, guess what? Uh, the most freeing thing in the world is when you really feel comfortable. I don't know. To even saying to your kids, listen, being a dad is new to me too. Much like being a son. We're learning. Let's learn together. Okay?
Yeah.
So participate, join in with the parenting with the child and allow the child to let you know how they like to be parent. Harville and Helen Hendricks do relationship coaching for 50 years, and it's really about giving the other person the love that they want. And it's getting the love that you want. And that takes communication. And
Yeah.
talking to your child, say, don't go, Dad, you think I'm a good dad? They're always going to say yes, okay? Because they don't want to get something else happen to them. But just say, how do you like to be parented? How do you like to be? Do you like to be told what to do? Would you like to be asked? Or what is what is it what's going to give you respect? Dad, I like it when you do that. Tell me what you like about what I do. Tell me what I don't like and be prepared. to make work on the checklist that doesn't work. And it doesn't mean you give them everything they ask for. Okay. You
Yeah.
said clear about how do you like boundaries? Well, I wouldn't like it when you give me everything I ask for. Well, that ain't gonna happen. Okay. So let's go on that truth right now. Okay. So is it something that you can negotiate with an allowance or if I do, you want to try to keep away from the conditions, give them responsibilities at home and not based on if you do this, you get that. That's really teaches conditional. Um, Not so much a love, but if you're teaching them a good ethic, that's a great way to teach them a really great work ethic. Mow the
Wash the
lawn,
car, you get 10 dollars. Yeah.
yeah, clean the car, give you $10. Mow the lawn. If each week, this is where your allowance comes in. You have to do this, and this to get and this is your allowance for the week. And I really appreciate it. And to teach them that it's not loving. They're not doing. You will love them either way, but they're not going to get the money for it. Okay. So that's different. That's a job. And one is, parenting is a job that doesn't get paid. You don't get paid for. And my son said to me once, Dad, we're good friends, aren't we? We're best friends. I said, No, I'm your dad. I said,
Oh,
he
really?
goes, What do you mean? I said, What do you mean? He goes, I said, I would die for you. How many? You'll never have a friend that will die for you. I said, and I will get three opinions if I have to go to the hospital and take my body. I said, well, I will get three medical opinions before I go in and say goodbye. But I'd die for them. I think most parents would die for their children. So that's a
That's interesting because I think a lot of people do want to be, they want to be the fishing buddy and the best friend and all the rest. And
yeah.
maybe that's just a matter of defining. You're still, even though you drive the boat doesn't mean you're not the dad or
Right, right. My employees at the flower shop say, "Well, we're friends, aren't we?" No.
yeah, I'd fire
I
you in a
said,
minute.
I'm
I have
I'm friendly.
yeah, right,
I may have to fire you,
right, right,
and then you will hate me.
right.
So, no, I cannot. I can be friendly, but as long as you're my employee, I'll be very friendly and respectful with you. But I may at some point, if I need to lay you off, I will. Okay. And if I need to fire you because you're
Right.
really disruptive to the employees or customers, I will fire you. So, if you still like me after that, then we can be friends. And if after I fire you, still want to be my friend, sure. We can be friends after that. Yeah.
Very good. All
Okay.
right, Steve. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I'm definitely gonna work on changing my mantra from the States to the game of 10.
I think you'll find your mind is clearer, and because that's what it does. I had one person bliss
Well, it
out.
sounds like it's more than that, though. I don't shortchange those. Not just mind clearing. It's
Well,
answering those questions I think, is some part of the magic too.
I think people find that it's when you get inner peace. And when I say, "What are you going to get from this inner peace?" Oh, well, that sounds boring. Because we get addicted to the drama of life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Peace is boring. War is fun.
Yeah.
Entertaining.
Yep.
Uh, Okay. Well, you can find Steve at stevebartoncoaching.com, and the book is The Father, the Son, and the Aha Moment, and there's a subtitle to that, right? The
Tools for helping your child develop a path to happiness. So if you have no children, then read it to your inner child. And also, people can download it for free. You'll get on my list. Okay, so you'll get 5 trickles for my coaching. Ignore them or pay or book a call with me. And so yeah, so scroll down at the bottom of that website and download it. I think it's a great book, And Marianne Williamson was one of my coaches for it, so I had some good teachers around me during that time. So thank you
Good.
so much, Paul, for having me on your show.
Okay. Okay. Paul Baines at GreatDad.com. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Tune in every week for more tips and experience from about modern fatherhood, which has changed a lot in my lifetime. You can find my coaching offerings at GreatDad.com/go, including a free class on gratitude for listeners of the podcast. Until next time, remember, a strong family starts with you.